I know you all love the royal content, but surveying the crisis of civilization is a broad-scale project, and Imperial Crusader Jordan Bloody Peterson is in my feed again in reports of the inaugural conference in London recently of his new right-wing forum, ARC. So even though I really want to talk to you about Queen Elizabeth's problematic legacy, today we have to talk about these assholes. For those who don't know, Jordan Peterson is a Canadian psychologist and self-help guru who has made it his mission to get around the English-speaking world vigorously advocating for all the conditions of patriarchy while simultaneously denying it exists. It's the smoothest act of doublespeak I've ever seen. Beneath his permanent posture of injured nobility, he's a passive-aggressive bully, a shrewd and shameless rhetorician, and a danger to anyone who can't see through his sophistry. Humanising hero of incels everywhere, avowed liberal traditionalist, beloved of the alt-right and the far-right, Peterson has now built himself enough of a following to attract some serious money. And with the backing of British hedge fund oligarch and Brexiteer Sir Paul Marshall, and the mysterious New Zealand billionaire Christopher Chandler's Dubai-based investment company Legatum Peterson has established the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship, or ARC. Peterson's notion of a responsible citizenry is predictably narrow. We are to group ourselves into nuclear families with, and this is a quote, long-term, committed, stable, heterosexual marriages sanctified by the community. We are to consider ourselves made in the image of God and be people of faith and decisiveness. People who arrange their affairs with care and attention. This is beyond the Protestant work ethic. This looks like National Socialism reconceived for a postmodern global self-help market. This sententious capitalistic idealism drives ARC's vision statement, quoted in this Guardian Australia article from 4 months ago. It says here, the vision statement also asks how these social harmony heroes might effectively conceptualize, value and reward the sacrificial, long-term, peaceful, child-centered, intimate relationships upon which psychological integrity and social stability most fundamentally depend. Give me half an hour to unpack that lethal little bad love bomb. I'm kidding, you have to pay for the half-hour version. I'll do it here in 2 minutes. Let's just look at those adjectives for intimate relationships. Sacrificial, long-term, peaceful, child-centered. Child-centered? Do not trust anyone, man or woman, who claims that all intimate relationships should be child-centered. We've done it before. It's perverse and oppressive and a straight path to catastrophic overpopulation. Throughout history, population balance is best managed by leaving women to choose when and whether they reproduce and allowing lots of people to choose not to reproduce at all, with or without celibacy. Demanding that all intimate relationships be child-centered is just bad justification for also making them sacrificial and long-term. Now tell me again what we're making these sacrifices for? The nuclear family is the foundation of modern capitalism, the productive unit that replaced the feudal cottage in what would become the modern national economy. Each powerhouse pod supporting one of a growing army of companymen, tradesmen, entrepreneurs and professionals in every burgeoning city. A woman, feeding and maintaining a working man and their children on the income from his labour, managing the household, in charge of the children and the servants, but subject to the man who owns everything, effectively including her. It is also the woman's duty to ensure that the whole multifunctional unit is oriented towards maximal socio-economic participation. This is how it has been, and this is what they want. And no wonder, when they believe that as a society our psychological integrity and social stability fundamentally depend on it. Notice that grouping, first of all. Psychological integrity and social stability, two concepts so closely related as to partially define each other. Sanity and order, you might say. Although if you put it like that, sanity and order fundamentally depend on the traditional nuclear family, you might sound too German. But I don't believe it's a misconstruction. Peterson and the other members of ARC, including former Australian Prime Ministers Tony Abbott and John Howard, respectively the mad monk and the evil gnome of Australian politics, these men are advocating for the nuclear family as a solution to society's ills, not just because they're selfish, nostalgic fools harking back to a time that was pleasant and profitable for their particular kind and precious few others, and don't care that it led directly to social chaos, but because they solemnly believe there is no other order. These men never learned the lessons of the 1950s, when women's psychological integrity and social stability began notoriously to crumble because they were stuck for mind-destroying decades in precisely this kind of abusive nuclear family social structure. These men learned nothing from the feminist outpouring of the 1960s, when it at last became undeniable that things had been this way for a long time before the wars. These men haven't learned, they've refused to learn, that feminism is a direct result of the Enlightenment, or that the social revolutions of the 1950s, 60s and onwards constitute inevitable human development towards the eventual re-emergence of peaceful, just, sustainable societies, seeking a new equilibrium in an overdeveloped world. Nor have the members of ARC learned the lessons of the jet age, internet-fired global market melting pot, a turbulent world in which transnational and intercontinental travel and migration are increasingly inevitable and integral. We are one world and we are many. And no matter what Jordan Bloody Peterson tells you, rigid social hierarchies do not and cannot make for a just and sustainable peace.